Hi, my name is Josh Moran, and welcome to the Financial Aid System of Tennessee. This video covers the new DEG page in FAST, along with the new DEG eligibility statuses and ineligible reasons for the 25-26 academic year. This is the first video previewing the updates in FAST for DEG. We do have one other video posted covering just the new concepts for DEG. If you haven't watched it yet, it might be useful to understand some of the items that we'll talk about in this and later videos. I'll also mention that the content for all these videos are also covered in the user guide. It should be available in the help menu under the FAST System accordion by the time this video is posted. So let's start off with the new DEG page inside of FAST. We've retired the old DEG eGrants page, and we've replaced it with a page specifically written for FAST. This new page uses a similar layout to the old page, though. We haven't done anything drastic. And if you've had a chance to check out the new foster child tuition grant page that we released back in July, it uses a similar template to that page. And I'll add just a note for the DEG and foster child tuition grant pages. We would really appreciate any feedback or suggestions on these pages. All the other programs will need to go through a similar update in the future, and we'd like to hear what needs improvement or what might or may not be working on them. So this new page, hopefully it should be relatively familiar. It's separated out into 4 sections. You have your button row at the top of the page. If you have sufficient access, you should be able to click on the edit button, change the values on the page. I have a lot more access than most of you likely have, so you won't be able to change everything that I can. This next button, Update Payment Status, works the same way that it did on the eGrants page. You're going to use this whenever you need to reset a payment status, and you'll just select that semester to set it back to ready to certify or pending verification, depending on your school's setup. This button here I'll go over a little bit later once we reach the bottom of the page. This next one here, GPA history, we'll cover this in a lot more detail in the videos covering the end of term process, but this is where you would be able to go in, edit any type of quality points or quality hours previously submitted for a student if it needs updates. You can also come to this page as well. One useful thing that separates it out from the other pages where you can enter, edit quality points and quality hours. From here, you can see a student's entire history of quality points and quality hours submission across all terms. This last button here, this is just where you can come to add a transaction comment. Useful if in case anything out of the ordinary happens or is updated on the student, you can leave a comment explaining what happened or why something's the student in particular might be special. You have your application information section next. This is where you're going to see their status for the DEG program for that year. I'll go over these in more detail a little bit later. Over here, you're going to have your indicators, and the equivalent in the old eGrants page would have been your ineligible reasons. We have them listed out here. The application type, new, renewal, and the date the application was submitted. This next section here, student information, that's just where you're going to get all the basic student information or values for various attributes for that student. Won't go over them all. They should be relatively familiar if you've dealt with dual enrollment before in the past. Next, we have applicant information. should be familiar from the old DEG page, but here's where you're going to see the first major change from the old eGrants page. This is where you're going to see those additional institutions that the student listed on the DEG application. The student can specify up to 3 when they submit it in the student portal. This is where a TSEC employee can go in and add an additional 2 schools for a total of 5. But this is where you can see which schools they listed on the application and in what order. Now we get down to this bottom section of the applicant information. Notice now that it's listing out total TCAT hours, your legacy TCAT hours, and your TCAT GPA. And just a heads up, if you haven't seen it before, we do calculate a separate TCAT GPA and a 2- and 4-year GPA, but we're not listing them currently here. And that's where that C2 4-year button, it's actually a toggle where you can toggle back and forth between seeing information relevant to a TCAT or see information relevant to a 2- and 4-year school. That same toggle, we have it listed again at the bottom of the page, and I imagine this is where it's going to be more useful. You'll use the one at the bottom compared to the top. And if you keep an eye out on this section here, when I flip through it, what it's going to do is update it to show information relevant to a TCAT. And you'll notice that the payment information section down here has updated. When I go back and click C2 4-year, I'll see the information relevant to a TCAT. There's no payment information listed at the bottom of the screen here, but that's because this particular student is only eligible for DEG at a TCAT. They have no 2- and 4-year payment records. So, reason why we did this, it's more it's easier to tell or why we did it when you see a student who has multiple institutions and is eligible to receive DEG at every single one of those schools. That list gets pretty long. Also, it's a pretty large application already. We just wanted to cut down on the number of fields that are displayed and the number of payment records that are displayed. We are a little bit curious if we should have added an option for see both on here. We don't think it necessarily is going to be relevant just because of the way the program's now split out, but we'd be interested to hear if someone has an opinion on that or if this needs to be changed. That's the page there. So nothing drastic on there. Should be relatively familiar to what you're used to using inside of or prior to this academic year. But again, give us any feedback. We'd be eager to hear what's working and what's not working on this page. Next, let's talk about updates to DEG eligibility. A student's basic eligibility for the grant has not changed. And by basic eligibility, I'm referring to those items like being a Tennessee resident, a high school junior or senior for 2- or 4-year institutions, high school freshman if enrolled at a TCAT, U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen, as well as eligible responses for the default incarceration high school graduate questions on the application. What we did, though, is expand the values for this application status to make it easier to tell when a student is eligible for a DEG, both at a TCAT and a non-TCAT, or if they only have DEG eligibility at one or the other. So in the past, we had just those 2 statuses, eligible and ineligible. But for 25-26, eligible means something slightly different. When you see a status of eligible, that student is eligible for DEG at both a TCAT and a non-TCAT. when you see a status of ineligible, that's only used for a student who's ineligible for DEG at both a TCAT and non-TCAT. And this could come from multiple reasons. Maybe they've maxed out DEG at both institution types, or they've had a GPA loss at both institution types, or it could also come from having an ineligible response to one of those basic eligibility requirements like citizenship or Tennessee residency. What is really new for this year is that we have new statuses indicating when a student may only have eligibility at one institution type. Like Mr. Savage here, his status is TCAT only. If I look over at the indicator value, I see that he has an ineligible reason of unsatisfactory 2 or 4 year institution. So he's only eligible to receive DEG at a TCAT, and the reason is he's lost eligibility at a 2 or 4 year institution due to a GPA loss. We have the same thing for 2 and 4 year only, and when you see that in the application status, that means that that student is only eligible for DEG at a 2 and 4 year institution, and that would be because of either maxing out their TCAT eligibility or a GPA loss at a TCAT. And just a note regarding these statuses, so you're used to seeing that at the top of the screen, and we're showing here that you'll see that more descriptive value on the application status field on this page, but you'll also see those statuses on your reports as well. So if the report has an application status value listed, you'll have the potential of seeing both eligible, ineligible, TCAT only, or 2 and 4 year only, depending on your institution type, but all of those are potentially available on those reports along with the eligible and ineligible statuses. So those are the application status updates. Some of the new indicator values. These are what your ineligible reasons were previously. We have new ones for that as well. For the basic application status, those remain the same, but what we did update was some additional values for GPA losses and max assistance to be specific to the institution types. We saw this one here, unsatisfactory 2 and 4 year institution. We also have the corresponding one for TCATs, and that one would be unsatisfactory TCAT. We also have new and eligible reasons for maximum assistance at a 2 and 4 year school, along with maximum assistance at a TCAT. And I do want to point out, so this is something new. We don't see it with other programs, but the student has a technically eligible status for DEG. It may be only TCAT only, but they do have an ineligible reason. In the past, if you had one or more ineligible reasons, you could always expect to see an ineligible status or an equivalent of an ineligible status. But for DEG, you can have a student who's potentially eligible to receive some DEG at only one institution types, but not both. And you should be able to tell from the indicator value why they have limited DEG eligibility. So just something new to keep in mind. Slight change from the old method, but it is something that we've updated for this upcoming academic year. That's it for this video. If I missed anything or if you have any questions, send them our way, and I'll see you in the next one.